The HOA fined me $15,000 for my great-grandfather's cabin, calling it an illegal eyesore. They had no idea it was just designated a state historical site. When I walked into their office with a governor-signed cease and desist order, their smug faces turned white with terror. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The letter was waiting on my cabin door when I got back from my morning walk. Bright yellow paper with violation notice stamped across the top in angry red letters. Property owner, Mike Stevens. Violation, unauthorized structure, cabin, on protected historical land. Fine, $500 per day until structure is removed. Total due, $15,000. My hands started shaking. $15,000? For the cabin my great-grandfather built in 1923? I'd owned this land for 8 years. Bought it from my uncle when he couldn't afford the taxes anymore. The cabin sat on 3 acres of beautiful forest land, right next to what used to be a quiet country road. But last year, Pine Valley HOA bought all the land around me and turned it into their luxury development. The HOA president, a woman named Carol Winters, had been trying to buy my property since day one. She said my rustic cabin didn't fit their upscale community vision. When I refused to sell, the harassment started. First, it was noise complaints about my generator. Then complaints about my truck being too old and ugly. Now this, claiming my family's 100-year-old cabin was somehow illegal. I called the county planning office immediately. Hello, this is Mike Stevens. I just got a violation notice from Pine Valley HOA claiming my cabin is on protected historical land. Can you help me understand what's going on? The clerk, Janet, knew me well. I'd been coming to their office for years to pay property taxes. Mike, that's strange. Your cabin isn't on protected land. It's on private property that you own free and clear. Then how can the HOA fine me? They can't. HOAs only have authority over properties within their development. Your land was never part of their HOA. My anger was building. So this fine is completely fake? I'm afraid so. But Mike, there's something else you should know. That land your cabin sits on? It was just designated as a state historical site last month. What does that mean? It means your cabin is now officially protected by state law. Nobody can force you to tear it down. In fact, it's illegal for anyone to even threaten to damage it. The pieces started falling into place. Carol Winters must have known about the historical designation. She was trying to scare me into tearing down my cabin before I found out it was legally protected. But she picked the wrong person to mess with. That night, I started digging into HOA law and historical property protections. What I found made my blood boil. Pine Valley HOA had been pulling this scam on other property owners too. They would send fake violation notices to people whose land bordered their development, hoping to scare them into selling cheap or making expensive improvements that weren't actually required. Most people just paid the fines rather than fight. But a few had fought back and won. The problem was each case took months and cost thousands in legal fees. I needed a different approach. The next morning, I drove to the State Historical Society office. A kind older woman named Mrs. Rodriguez helped me look up the paperwork on my cabin. Oh my, she said, reading through the files. Mr. Stevens, your cabin is quite special. It's one of the last original homestead cabins in the county. Your great-grandfather built it using traditional methods that are almost lost now. The HOA wants me to tear it down. Tear it down? Her voice got sharp. That would be a crime. This cabin is protected under the State Historical Preservation Act. Anyone who damages or threatens it can face criminal charges. What kind of charges? Up to 5 years in prison and $50,000 in fines. The state takes historical preservation very seriously. An idea started forming in my mind. Mrs. Rodriguez, who enforces these laws? The State Attorney General's office. But for something this serious, it could go all the way to the governor. The governor? Oh yes. Governor Harrison is very passionate about preserving our state's history. He personally reviews all major historical preservation cases. That's when I knew what I had to do. I spent 3 days writing the perfect letter. It had to be professional, factual, and compelling enough to get the governor's attention. Dear Governor Harrison, my name is Mike Stevens, and I'm writing to report a serious violation of the State Historical Preservation Act. My family's cabin, built in 1923 and recently designated as a state historical site, is being threatened with destruction by Pine Valley HOA. They have issued fake violation notices demanding I tear down this protected structure, despite having no legal authority over my property. The HOA has already collected $50,000 in illegal fines from other property owners using similar fake notices. They are systematically destroying our state's historical heritage for profit. I am requesting emergency intervention to protect not only my cabin, but all the other historical properties being threatened by this organization. This cabin represents 4 generations of my family's history and is one of the last original homestead structures in our county. Once it's gone, it can never be replaced. Please help me save our history. Respectfully, Mike Stevens. I included copies of the fake violation notice, my property deed, the historical designation paperwork, and photos of my cabin. Then I hand-delivered it to the governor's office. 3 days later, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Mr. Stevens? This is Amanda Wilson from Governor Harrison's office. The governor has reviewed your letter and would like to speak with you personally. My heart nearly stopped. The governor wants to talk to me? Yes, sir. Can you be at the state capitol at 2 p.m. today? I'll be there. I put on my best clothes and drove 2 hours to the state capitol. Walking into the governor's office felt like a dream. Governor Harrison was younger than I expected, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mr. Stevens, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Your letter was very well written. Thank you, Governor. I've had my staff investigate Pine Valley HOA. What we found is disturbing. They've been operating essentially as a criminal organization, using fake legal documents to steal money from innocent property owners. So what can be done? The governor smiled. Quite a lot, actually. I'm issuing an executive order declaring your cabin and the surrounding area a state-protected historical zone. This gives it the highest level of protection under state law. What does that mean? It means anyone who threatens your cabin is threatening state property. They can be prosecuted as if they were vandalizing the state capitol building. He handed me a thick folder. I'm also issuing a cease and desist order against Pine Valley HOA, signed by both myself and the state attorney general. If they contact you again about your cabin, they'll face immediate criminal prosecution. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Governor, I don't know how to thank you. Mr. Stevens, preserving our history is one of my most important responsibilities. Your great-grandfather's cabin tells the story of how our state was built. I won't let anyone destroy that story. The next morning, I had the most satisfying moment of my life. I walked into Pine Valley HOA's fancy office building carrying the governor's cease and desist order in a leather briefcase. Carol Winters was sitting behind an expensive desk, talking on her phone about problem properties. Mrs. Winters? I have something for you. She looked up with that same smug expression she always wore. Mr. Stevens. Have you decided to pay your fines and remove that eyesore? Actually, no. I placed the official document on her desk. I have a cease and desist order. Signed by the governor. Her face went white as she read the first line. By order of Governor Harrison and the State Attorney General, Pine Valley HOA is hereby ordered to immediately cease all contact with Mike Stevens and his property. This can't be real. Page 2 explains that my cabin is now a state-protected historical zone. Any further threats against it will result in criminal prosecution. She kept reading, her hands shaking. 5 years in prison? $50,000 fine? That's just for threatening the cabin. Page 3 covers the investigation into your fake violation notices. Fraud, extortion, conspiracy. Looks like serious charges. Carol stood up so fast her chair fell over. You can't do this. We have rights. You had rights. You lost them when you decided to threaten state historical property. I pointed to the governor's signature at the bottom of the document. This comes from the highest office in the state. I'd take it seriously if I were you. Within a week, everything changed. The state attorney general's office launched a full investigation into Pine Valley HOA. Carol Winters and 3 board members were arrested for fraud and extortion. The fake fines were declared illegal, and the HOA had to refund over $200,000 to property owners they had scammed. My cabin became a local celebrity. The Historical Society put up an official marker, and the County Tourism Board added it to their heritage trail. School groups started coming by for field trips to learn about early settlers. But the best part was the letter I got from Governor Harrison a month later. Dear Mr. Stevens, thank you for your courage in protecting our state's history. Your willingness to fight for what's right saved not only your family's cabin, but helped us uncover a criminal organization that was destroying historical properties across the state. I'm pleased to inform you that the State Historical Society will be providing a grant to help restore and maintain your cabin for future generations. Your great-grandfather would be proud. Sincerely, Governor Harrison. The grant was for $25,000, enough to fix the roof, restore the original windows, and add a small museum room where visitors could learn about homestead life. A year later, I was sitting on my newly restored cabin porch when a young family stopped by for a tour. The little girl, maybe 8 years old, was fascinated by the old wood stove and hand-built furniture. "Did people really live like this?" she asked. "My great-grandfather did. He built this whole cabin with his own hands, using trees from this very land. Why did the bad people want to tear it down?" Her mother looked embarrassed. "Emma, that's not polite." "It's okay," I said. "They wanted to tear it down because they thought money was more important than history. But they were wrong." "How do you know they were wrong?" I pointed to the official historical marker by the road, with the state seal and governor's signature. "Because sometimes, when you stand up for what's right, the most powerful people in the state will stand up with you." As the family walked back to their car, I thought about how this all started with a fake fine on yellow paper. Carol Winters thought she could bully me into destroying my family's legacy. Instead, she helped me preserve it forever. The cabin my great-grandfather built with his hands was now protected by the governor's signature. And sometimes that's exactly how justice is supposed to work.